Today, we will talk about an effective way to learn English. Are you ready? The methods I recommended into English for you. Here they are. 1. Think of the words around you in English. The most important thing in learning English is to accept English as your own language. Don't try to translate English into Korean, but try to think and express yourself directly in English. For example, you can use methods such as putting English labels on household items, writing your daily routine in English, or writing a diary in English. 2. Repeat the phrases that native speakers use. When speaking or writing in English, don't worry too much about grammar or vocabulary. Memorize and use the phrases and expressions that native English speakers often use. For example, practice simple greetings, such as "How are you?" "I'm fine, thank you." "Nice to meet you." "Have a good day." Repeatedly. It is important to access and learn various materials and texts using English videos, audios, news, English websites, etc. 3. Create situations where you have to use native language. You need to find opportunities to actually use English. You can learn effectively through English study groups or conversations with native English speakers. You can also find opportunities to chat and discuss in English online. For example, Verbling Community Discussion is a place where there are many chat groups on various topics in a word. The discussion opener, usually an English teacher, posts questions or interesting facts that other people can talk about together. Sometimes they indicate how their discussion can help with some language skills. Basically, you can use this website to talk to native English speakers and other English learners for free. Other times, the conversation is completely open and flows naturally. People always help with mistakes, and don't criticize the fact that they made mistakes. Everyone on the website is a language learner and understands each other. 4. Watch TV or movies without subtitles. The best way to improve your English listening skills is to watch English TV or movies. Choose your favorite movie or TV program. Then you can watch it less boringly. If possible, choose familiar movies or programs, such as children's cartoons or blockbusters. If you already know the basic plot, it will be easier to learn the language. But avoid movies or TV programs with Korean subtitles. Subtitles distract your concentration and interfere with your purpose of watching movies or TV programs, which is to understand English. 5. Read English books, newspapers, magazines. Reading is an important part of foreign language learning, so don't forget to practice. Find something really interesting to read. If the content is boring, it will be hard to read to the end. Don't just skim over what you're reading, but try to actively understand it. Look up words or expressions that you don't understand in a dictionary, or write them down in a note. Review them later and make sentences with them. 6. Practice pronunciation. Even if you have a lot of knowledge about English, your grammar is correct, and your vocabulary is rich. If you don't pay attention to pronunciation, native speakers may have a hard time understanding your English. Your pronunciation must be accurate and clear. If you want to improve your English skills, listen carefully to how native speakers pronounce specific words and sounds, and try to imitate them as much as possible. Pay special attention to unfamiliar or non-Korean sounds. For example, some people have difficulty pronouncing R or TH such as a specific consonant group. This is because they are sounds that do not exist in Korean. The pronunciation of English words varies greatly, depending on the country where English is used. For example, American English and British English are quite different. When learning the pronunciation of words, consider the English-speaking country where you will travel or live. Hello, I'm your English teacher for today. How are you? Hi, teacher. I'm good, thank you. How are you? I'm great, thank you for asking. So, what do you want to learn today? Well, I want to improve my English speaking skills. I can read and write English, but I have trouble speaking and listening. I see. That's a common problem for many English learners. Don't worry, I'm here to help you. Do you have any specific goals or topics that you want to focus on? Yes, I do. I want to learn how to have casual conversations with native speakers. I want to sound more natural and fluent in English. That's a good goal. Casual conversations are very important for building relationships and making friends in English. There are many ways to practice casual conversations. But one of the most effective ways is to use the methods that I recommended in my blog post. Do you remember them? Yes, I do. I read your blog post and I found it very helpful. You recommended 6 methods to learn English effectively. They are: 1. Think of the words around you in English. 2. Repeat the phrases that native speakers use. 3. Create situations where you have to use native language. 4. Watch TV or movies without subtitles. 5. Read English books, newspapers, magazines. 6. Practice pronunciation. That's right. You have a good memory. These methods are very useful for improving your English skills, especially your speaking and listening skills. Do you have any questions about these methods? Yes, I do. I have some questions about each method. Can I ask you now? Of course. I'm happy to answer your questions. Let's start with the first method. What do you want to know about thinking of the words around you in English? Well, I want to know how to do it effectively. How can I think of the words around you in English when I don't know the English words for some things? For example, how can I think of the word for nanyango in English? That's a good question. If you don't know the English word for something, you can use a dictionary or an online translator to look it up. For example, the word for nanyango in English is refrigerator. You can write it down on a sticky note and stick it on your nanyango. Then, every time you see your nanyango, you can think of the word refrigerator in English. This way, you can learn new words and remember them easily. I see. That makes sense. Thank you for the tip. What about the things that I can't stick a note on? For example, how can I think of the word for hanyul in English? That's another good question. For the things that you can't stick a note on, you can use your imagination and creativity. For example, the word for hanyul in English is sky. You can imagine that the sky is a big blue canvas, and the clouds are white paint. Then, you can think of the word sky in English, and associate it with the image of a big blue canvas. This way, you can make your own associations and mnemonics to remember the words. Wow! That's very interesting. I like that idea. Thank you for the example. I think I can try to do that. Do you have any other suggestions for thinking of the words around you in English? Yes, I do. Another suggestion is to use your phone or camera to take pictures of the things around you and label them in English. For example, you can take a picture of your room and label the furniture, the objects, the colors, etc. in English. Then, you can review the pictures and the words regularly. This way, you can visualize the words and reinforce your memory. That's a great suggestion. I think that would be very helpful. Thank you for the advice. I will try to do that. Can I ask you about the second method now? Sure. The second method is to repeat the phrases that native speakers use. What do you want to know about this method? The second method is to repeat the phrases that native speakers use. What do you want to know about this method? I want to know how to find and learn the phrases that native speakers use. Where can I get the sources and materials for this method? That's a good question. There are many sources and materials that you can use to find and learn the phrases that native speakers use. For example, you can use Fluent U. This is an online platform that provides authentic English videos, such as movie trailers, music videos, news, and more. You can watch the videos with interactive subtitles, quizzes, and flashcards. You can learn the phrases that native speakers use in real situations and contexts. You can also choose the level and topic that suit your interests and goals. LingQ. This is another online platform that allows you to read and listen to various English texts, such as books, podcasts, blogs, and more. You can look up the words and phrases that you don't know and save them in your personal vocabulary list. You can also review them with flashcards and tests. You can learn the phrases that native speakers use in different genres and styles. Phrase Mix. This is a website that teaches you the phrases that native speakers use in everyday life. You can learn how to say things that textbooks don't teach you, such as how to make small talk, how to give compliments, how to apologize, and more. You can also get audio lessons and email courses to improve your listening and speaking skills. These are some of the sources and materials that I recommend for learning the phrases that native speakers use. You can use them to practice the second method. Do you have any questions about them? Yes, I do. How can I use them effectively? How can I remember the phrases that I learned from them? That's another good question. To use them effectively, you need to do the following steps. Choose the source or material that matches your level, topic, and goal. For example, if you want to learn how to talk about movies, you can choose a movie trailer video from Fluent U, a movie review podcast from LingQ, or a movie-related phrase lesson from Phrase Mix. Listen or read the content carefully and try to understand the main idea and the details. Pay attention to the pronunciation, intonation, and context of the phrases that native speakers use. Look up the words and phrases that you don't know and save them in your vocabulary list. Try to guess the meaning from the context before using a dictionary or a translator. Review the words and phrases that you learned using flashcards, quizzes, or tests. Try to recall the meaning, spelling, and usage of the phrases. Repeat the phrases that native speakers use out loud, and try to imitate their pronunciation and intonation. You can also record yourself and compare your voice with the native speaker's voice. Use the phrases that native speakers use in your own sentences and situations. You can also write them down in a notebook or a journal. Try to use them as much as possible in your daily life and conversations. These are the steps that you need to follow to use the sources and materials effectively. If you do these steps regularly and consistently, you will be able to remember and use the phrases that native speakers use. Do you understand? Yes, I do. Thank you for the explanation. I think I can try to do these steps. Can I ask you about the third method now? Sure. The third method is to create situations where you have to use native language. What do you want to know about this method? I want to know how to create situations where I have to use native language. What kind of situations are good for practicing this method? That's a good question. There are many kinds of situations that are good for practicing this method. For example, you can create situations where you have to use native language by joining an English club or a language exchange program. You can meet other English learners or native speakers and practice your English skills with them. You can also learn about their culture, hobbies, and interests. You can find local or online English clubs or language exchange programs on websites like Meetup or Tandem. Taking an online or offline English course. You can enroll in an English course that suits your level and goal. You can learn from a professional English teacher and interact with other English students. You can also get feedback and evaluation on your English skills. You can find online or offline English courses on websites like Engu or Coursera. Traveling to an English-speaking country, or a place where English is widely used. You can immerse yourself in an English environment and use English for various purposes, such as asking for directions, ordering food, shopping, making reservations, and more. You can also experience the culture, history, and nature of the place. You can find travel information and tips on websites like Lonely Planet or TripAdvisor. The third method is to create situations where you have to use native language. What do you want to know about this method? I want to know how to prepare myself for these situations. What kind of situations are good for practicing this method? That's a good question. There are many kinds of situations that are good for practicing this method. For example, you can create situations where you have to use native language by joining an English club or a language exchange program. You can meet other English learners or native speakers and practice your English skills with them. You can also learn about their culture, hobbies, and interests. You can find local or online English clubs or language exchange programs on websites like Meetup or Tandem. Taking an online or offline English course. You can enroll in an English course that suits your level and goal. You can learn from a professional English teacher and interact with other English students. You can also get feedback and evaluation on your English skills. You can find online or offline English courses on websites like Engu or Coursera. Traveling to an English-speaking country or a place where English is widely used. You can immerse yourself in an English environment and use English for various purposes, such as asking for directions, ordering food, shopping, making reservations, and more. You can also experience the culture, history, and nature of the place. You can find travel information and tips on websites like Lonely Planet or TripAdvisor. These are some of the situations that you can create, where you have to use native language. You can use them to practice the third method. Do you have any questions about them? Yes, I do. How can I prepare myself for these situations? What should I do before, during, and after these situations? That's another good question. To prepare yourself for these situations, you need to do the following things. Before these situations, you should do some research and planning. For example, if you join an English club or a language exchange program, you should find out the topic, the level, and the format of the meeting. You should also prepare some questions or comments to share with the group. If you take an online or offline English course, you should check the syllabus, the schedule, and the requirements of the course. You should also complete any assignments or readings before the class. If you travel to an English-speaking country, or a place where English is widely used, you should learn some basic phrases and words that you will need for your trip. You should also make a list of the places that you want to visit, and the things that you want to do. During these situations, you should be active and confident. For example, if you join an English club or a language exchange program, you should participate in the conversation and express your opinions. You should also listen to other people and ask them questions. If you take an online or offline English course, you should pay attention to the teacher and the classmates. You should also ask questions and answer questions. If you travel to an English-speaking country or a place where English is widely used, you should try to use English as much as possible. You should also interact with the locals and the tourists. You should also enjoy the experience and have fun. After these situations, you should review and reflect. For example, if you join an English club or a language exchange program, you should review the notes and the vocabulary that you learned from the meeting. You should also practice the phrases and the expressions that you heard or used. If you take an online or offline English course, you should review the materials and the feedback that you received from the course. You should also practice the skills and the knowledge that you learned. If you travel to an English-speaking country or a place where English is widely used, you should review the photos and the memories that you made from the trip. You should also write a diary or a blog about your trip. These are the things that you need to do to prepare yourself for these situations. If you do these things regularly and consistently, you will be able to improve your English skills and enjoy these situations. Do you understand? Yes, I do. Thank you for the explanation. I think I can try to do these things. Can I ask you about the common mistakes that learners make when using this method? Sure, the common mistakes that learners make when using this method are being too shy or afraid to use English. Some learners are too nervous or embarrassed to speak or write in English. They worry about making mistakes or being judged by others. They avoid using English or only use simple and safe sentences. This prevents them from improving their English skills and expressing themselves fully. Being too dependent on translation tools or dictionaries. Some learners rely too much on translation tools or dictionaries to understand or produce English. They use them for every word or sentence that they encounter or create. This makes them lose the natural flow and context of English. It also makes them less confident and less creative.